of being a YouTube creator is finding that balance between what we think is good content and what the data actually tells us is. We want better retention. We want results. We want videos that do it all. And ultimately, we want our content to drive people to whatever call to action it is that we are asking them to take. The thing is, we have a tendency to irritate viewers. Our metrics clearly show that. We end up getting low retention. No one ends up clicking. And the frustrating part about that is you lose complete confidence in your strategy and you feel like you're never going to grow here on the platform. So today, we're going to have a conversation around that. Let's see if we can fix that for you.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's so great to see you here again for another Video Creators Podcast episode like we do every Monday. We love sharing advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, growing your business, helping you reach more people, and changing their lives. I'm hanging out here with Sam, another one of the YouTube strategists here on the team. Sam, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm excited because I'm going on a trip to visit my dad, who I have not seen in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I always love traveling. He lives in Europe, so it's going to be fun to kind of connect with him. My brother's flying in from California. It's just going to be a nice little family time.
Yeah, it's a nice getaway.
Looking forward to that. Seeing if I can film some content while we're there.
Hey, nice.
I find that when I have a tendency to travel, I take an insane amount of pictures and video. I don't know about you. You do the same?
Actually, no. I'm pretty bad about like saving memories as far as taking pictures and videos. So I'm trying to get better at that. So maybe you'll inspire me.
Michael always makes fun of me because he remembers one specific cruise that we took to Alaska. I took 9,000 pictures over the course of a week. Yes. Kind of crazy, but it was so pretty. It was so pretty. But that kind of reminds me a little bit about our next creator spotlight. Tristan, he has been one of our Video Lab students, and one of the things that he does is he has a cabin called the DIY Cabin Guy. And it kind of reminded me of that because when you're building a cabin, you can imagine how much footage you would actually have for that. He says that he has hard drives and hard drives of footage. And one of the things that is really frustrating for him is turning that into something usable. Well, he sat down and talked with one of our strategist here on the team, Blake, and here's what he said.
So long story short, I mean, I've always liked doing video work. I used to do videos, like personal videos for fun, for vacations and whatnot. And also I, found another passion in building and, putting stuff together. So I just kind of mixed most of my passion, which was, I decided to tackle a project to build a cabin by myself, which was going to be behind my house and that I would end up renting on Airbnb. And so I figured, hey, that would be the perfect project to kind of, record and try and do video about it. Obviously, I still work full time and everything, so I try to post one video every 2 weeks, and it's obviously a time consuming activity. The channel makes a little bit of money, and it's growing, and I'm learning, and I still enjoy doing it. So even if I wasn't making money, I would probably still do it. But it's nice when you get to get some growth out of it as well.
What are some of the roadblocks you've run into as a creator, and like how have you kind of overcome those?
The main challenge, there's different aspects. Obviously the time aspect just of working the video because I also have to build something before I can video it and edit it. A lot of my free time is spent just building. And then on top of that, I have to record it and then do the whole YouTube thing. I'm trying to figure out how to better, prep and put my videos together so that maybe I film less, because I have a tendency to just record absolutely everything when I'm building. And then I'm just ending up with, hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes for every video. If you find out, how you're going to arc your story in your video and how you're going to kind of put your video together, then I know now I'm like, you know what, this is not important to the story. There's no need for me to film this aspect. And so it's kind of saving me time, on the help out where I don't record as much, and so then I save time.
I know you did a consultation. I know you're in Video Labs. Is there anything like key takeaways that you're going to be implementing kind of moving forward?
It really pushed me to kind of change things up, because even though I've only been doing it for a year, well, which sounds like a good a long time, I feel we all of us, all the different students in the class, you can see that everyone kind of falls in their own pattern. Like, they've tried a few things. They've tried like a kind of their template as doing thumbnail, and they're like, that's kind of how I do it. And you kind of easily get stuck into that routine and into your own ways. And so that is something that has been really helpful, is being kind of pushing out the envelope. And I know like the recent videos, I've completely changed the way I design thumbnails, and it kind of opened up my ways of looking at them and designing them in a different fashion. And same for the videos as well. Same for the video structure. My challenge is that I'm very detail oriented, so I want to show every single thing. And I real quickly realized that it's just not worth it. It's not, people can figure out, the way you're doing things, even if you like jump through a few steps instead of like showing like literally, hey, this nail, this one, that one. So that's really all things that I'm trying to learn and implement. And yeah, it's been difficult, but again, it's really just making my whole process and my channel as a whole, I think, better, because I'm managing to do shorter videos that have more information, that are more that have a better story structure, and so they are overall just more enjoyable to watch, really.
So let's just say there's someone else trying to grow their channel like you for the first time, or maybe they're stuck. What's kind of some advice you'd give them, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because my previous channel, the one I quickly mentioned, I remember the only thing I did, I think I took like a random class off of Udemy, and all they were talking about was, just like, it was probably the old ways of doing things. Maybe I worked 10 years ago about keywording and all that. And so it was leading me nowhere. So I think that, at least, that's why, I really enjoy listening to you, the podcast you guys put together, because even by not paying for any services, that really kind of like gave me an idea of like what I should be looking for and what not to waste time on. And so that's already great if you're getting started, because at least you don't necessarily have like a perfect roadmap, but you have an idea of like, hey, in 2022 or 2023, that's kind of what it takes to grow something on YouTube. And so at least you're not just spinning your wheel and you're not going to burn out because you're literally doing the wrong things and you're not going to get anywhere. So I would say that's the best way to start. And then after maybe, once maybe you get past, maybe once you start getting monetized and you get past your first 1,000 subscribers, because I think it's really worth it. Before, I guess, doing Video Labs, it would be tough to start Video Labs if you're literally starting from scratch. I think it's valuable if you've done, at least 30, 40 videos. So you really, you've tried things, you can go back and see what has worked, what hasn't worked, and you can go from there. I think if you're brand new, just going with the podcast and really giving it a shot and doing your first, 10, 20, 30, 40 videos is probably the way to go. And then hopefully by then you've grown a little bit more that, then you can potentially do other services or other things to take you to that next level. Because you have a lot of skills you have to master, video editing, video, taking videos, telling stories, editing. It's insane the number of skills you have to acquire to be good at this, especially when you're doing it all alone, which is most people.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, it's just taking your time and practicing really at the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks so much for your time. I really do appreciate you jumping in and doing this call with us. And again, it's been awesome having you in Video Labs.
If you'd like to surround yourself with a team of strategists to help you take your next steps forward with your channel, just like Tristan did, you can work with Sam, Laura, or Blake, and we would love to help you reach new levels on your channel as well. Just go ahead and go to videocreators.com/discovery call, book a 15-minute session, and we just want to hear your story. It's completely free. We want to know, what are you doing here on YouTube? What are your goals? And especially, what are those roadblocks? If it makes sense for us to work together, we'll explore that and kind of see what that looks like. And if not, no problem. Ultimately, we just like the opportunity to connect with creators like yourself. So Sam, I'm curious. thinking kind of like about Tristan and having like tons and tons of footage, a lot of times we feel like each video is a piece of artwork, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So when you're doing that, we're creating the art that we feel a viewer is going to fall in love with, thus connect, want to be a subscriber, and go down this long YouTube journey with us. I kind of feel like there's a viewing contract, right? Like, I know you're laughing. I'm going to make a
That's
video
so true. Yeah.
that has value, right?
Right.
And it's supposed to be valued for the actual viewer. That's one of the mistakes that I feel like a lot of creators make initially, is they think that it's all about them. But in essence, it's actually about the viewer, right? So
Right.
the contract is, I'm going to make this piece of content. You're going to watch it. Hopefully you'll even watch ads. And then you'll also take action on the calls to action that I make in the videos. Basically, you want to be a part of my world, right?
Right. No, totally.
So,
yeah.
So where do you think that creators go wrong in this journey?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of the first thing that you touched on as far as like, who does the creator have in mind when they're making the content? Is it myself and what I want to make, or is it the target audience that we have in mind of who we're making the content for? And I wouldn't say that first option is completely wrong to make content for you, because like I agree with you. I think there's an element of kind of like art and creativity that comes to being a creator and making content. So I think you need to be satisfied with what you're making, and it needs to fuel you to some point. Because if it's like, you know, you're not getting any satisfaction or enjoyment or anything out of that, you know, that can lead to burnout. That can just be really exhausting, I feel. So I think there's an element of you need to do what's fulfilling for you to some extent. But I'd say the majority of it needs to be like, who are we making this for? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, and that's kind of what you're touching on with kind of like this viewing contract. You know, if you can craft content for a specific person and you're either solving a problem for them or making them feel a specific way or just kind of meeting them where they're at, they're going to be so much more likely to stick around and support you, whether that is just, you know, sticking around for ads or engaging with a call to action that you have, whether it's to watch more content or, you know, leave a comment, or if you're selling something, especially like going and making a transaction somewhere. I think that is kind of where the know, like, and trust factor is built, when you can clearly identify who you're making the content for and then go and do that.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny how so much of this goes back to target audience, right? I think you and I were having this conversation.
We said that this morning, right?
Earlier this morning. Yeah.
It's so true.
Everything goes back to target audience. And then I think one of the things that people don't really realize is how important ideas are. Mm. Right? You kind of dipped into the struggle a little bit, you know, what's important for the viewer, but it has to also be an idea that is valuable, not just to your audience, but also clickable, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious, what does that spark for you, kind of like with some of the clients that you work with and some of the struggles that you see in their content?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's such a good point with ideas and topics of videos. I think it depends on where you're at as a creator and like the lifespan of how long you've been doing this. But,
True.
You know, both of us have stories of working with newer creators where there's all of these ideas and we just got to kind of rein it in at first. And like, what is step 2 and 3 and 4, and not like thinking so far ahead. But we've also worked with plenty of people who have been creating for years, you know, 10 plus years. And it's the kind of thing that's like, I'm so tired of making the same video. And, you know, that sometimes will lead creators to work with us of like, I'm so tired of this. If I know that I will get the views and the engagement if I make a particular video about this thing, and I don't want to be on that hamster wheel anymore. So what do I do? So yeah, I think the topics are a really important part of the conversation of, what's the goal right now? What are we trying to accomplish? If it's maybe that latter example of the channel who's been making the same videos for years and years and years, maybe at that point it's a conversation of like, okay, coming back to target audience, let's talk about the audience. Do we want to kind of, do version 2.0 and reinvent ourselves a little bit and, maybe evolve your target audience a bit? So we broaden a little bit, or we kind of like, go after a slightly different person here and reinvent what this looks like. You still have them in mind, but as far as the ideas and the topics of our content that we're going to be coming up with, we can get creative there and come up with some solutions.
Yeah, I like that. And I feel like a practical exercise for those of you that might be in that place is to utilize short form content to kind of test some new ideas, but also making it very pertinent for your existing audience at the same time. Try to find, and I feel like the longer you're a creator, the fun factor kind of goes away a little bit, and it becomes a little more like work. Not that that's a bad thing, but what really lit you up in the beginning? Because when you're a brand new creator, it's like it's limitless, right? There's, like you said, unending ideas. How do you get back to capturing a little bit of that? Because probably, and this is really true for a lot of creators that have been on the platform for a long time, when I'm evaluating videos, and even retention graphs, and you start to look at some of the videos that perform the best, usually the creator's like so super excited and engaged, what's going on. And some of the more recent content, it's just making content, and you can feel that energy in there.
Definitely.
That's definitely something that I've noticed is a pattern amongst creators on the platform. And then another kind of like pet peeve, I guess I will say, for viewers, and something that I see is when titles and thumbnails also don't really align with the video. They become very YouTubey, which I think we can make a word.
Oh, totally. Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, so you define for the audience, because they can't visually see what to YouTubey means. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think when I think of YouTubey, I think of the classic like shocked face with the, and it's not really telling a story. Like, I think there's absolutely a balance and like a healthy line on the spectrum of like, what is intrigue versus what is kind of just pointless clickbait, which I guess I would define that as YouTubey.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of, something like that, that's not necessarily telling the story. I think in the thumbnail, like we talk about this all the time. How are we visually telling a story about what this video is going to be about? And so, I'm not saying that having a shocked face is wrong. I think it just depends on the context of the video and how, I would more ask a question to a creator, like, how are you going to use a facial expression to tell the story? Like, if you're going to have a video that's maybe like the 5 hacks that changed my life sort of a video, like maybe a more of a shocked, surprise face helps add to the story there. Where if it's like, don't make these horrible mistakes or your life will be ruined, and I'm like smiling, having a smiling kind of thumbnail, it doesn't necessarily fit,
And that's a great point. Definitely making sure that the emotion matches whatever it is that you're looking to say visually. And I feel like creators like Matt Davella and actually Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, have really come a long way in creating very realistic emotional faces versus like the over the top emotion that doesn't feel authentic.
Right.
Yeah. So if your thumbnail doesn't feel authentic, then that to me is YouTubey.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's so true. Because we use the word intrigue a lot.
Yeah, we do.
If you've listened to the podcast much, you've heard us talk about intrigue when it comes to the title and the thumbnail. And intrigue can look a lot of different ways. There are thumbnails you can craft that are very focused on text for the intrigue factor, how that plays off with the title. And that's a great way to capture that. Sometimes there's no text at all, and it's just visuals. That's really intriguing. So whatever's authentic to you as the creator. Totally.
Yeah, and I love thumbnails that really nail that without having to tell me what the emotion is. And I feel like when you can visually really drill and tap into that, that's a complete winner. So, okay, we've got the ideas. We started at the beginning. It all begins with an idea. And then we started with title and thumb because, of course, remember, you want to create your title and thumbnail before you turn the camera on, just as a reminder, in case you're new here. Tell me some more pet peeves that you think viewers really can't stand about content.
Yeah, well, if we're going the viewer journey, I'd say the next is going to be your opening hook. How does the video start? If we got so far to get somebody to click into the video, likely there's some amount of curiosity or intrigue that you sparked in the title thumbnail, maybe a question that you posed, or some tension that the viewer felt. So they clicked in expecting something. That's what we want. And so they're coming in with this energy and this expectation. And if you delay that at all in that opening 15 seconds, 20 seconds, that opening hook, I'd say that's another big pet peeve. For me personally, one of my biggest pet peeves is within the first 5 seconds. If I'm already getting like, before we get into it today, don't forget, smash the like button and leave me a comment and subscribe and hit the bell. And I'm also selling this thing. Go click the link, go check it out there. And, before you know it, you've kind of wasted the first minute, maybe even 2 minutes of your video, not really, giving me anything. That's actually going to deter me. That's going to get me to want to go find a different video to go watch. So, yeah. Yeah,
I find that audiences nowadays, and you can really see this in data when we work, both Sam and I work with clients where we have the opportunity to be in their back end, and you see this over and over and over in retention graphs, just like you said, taking way too long to get to it, and it's just a constant loss, but really also not setting the expectation for the video. If I'm constantly having to think in the first minute or two, how is this valuable to me? If I can't get there really quickly, if you haven't, and you'll notice this with videos that have tons of views that are best performing on channels, generally one pattern that you will see is that creator will have set the expectation for the viewer up really quickly. And it's crystal clear. So I feel like that's kind of like a really big thing.
Yeah. Well, so
when it comes to viewer signals.
Here's a question for you. I guess if somebody listening right now is kind of taking this in and thinking like, oh, okay, so how would I set the expectation for the viewer? What would you say?
Well, it's about really, right away in a hook in the first couple seconds, you got to remember the hook is just an extension of your title and your thumbnail, right? If you pick up right where the title and thumbnail left off. And if you look at like a creator like Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, he's probably on the extreme in that genre, but in that genre, everything is quick, fast cut, really fast pace. I mean, I don't even know how many cuts they have in the first 30 seconds of a video. It's insane. That's not everybody's niche. So don't think that you have to do that. But he tells you within a few seconds what the video is about, who's the character, what do they want, why can't they have it, and what's at stake. He delivers that so that you are in on the journey right from the beginning. You know what it's about. So that doesn't mean you coming in and saying, today in this video, we're going to. I feel like YouTube has moved past that.
I agree.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think, there's so much there. I think with storytelling just becoming more and more prominent, I'm a really big fan of showing versus telling. Like if you can just show me and not spell it out for me, it's so much more powerful And so even like you said, the title and especially the thumbnail kind of being the beginning of your hook, taking that into account and then starting to kind of tell this story right off the bat, that can be so powerful. It can be so good. And sometimes even if it's like Mr. Beast is a great example because he kind of like on the nose hits those points for kind of setting up a story structure. But I think there can be intrigue too in like an untold story. Like if you're just showing, you're bringing me along, it can almost create some tension. Like creating tension in the opening seconds can also be a really effective way to pull somebody in and get them kind of leaning forward and intrigued. If you're just kind of like Casey Neistat, I think does a great job of that. He kind of just starts like you're just in the story immediately, and he doesn't have to kind of spell it out for you, but he usually picks it up right from the thumbnail.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because there are so many creators too who it is about the visual story. But ultimately, like you said, it is the story, and you are dropped in a little bit of tension. Drama might be overdoing it.
Yeah.
But, if you're a how-to channel too, it can also be where you're dropped into the thing that you really want and the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining, what if you have a channel that's like drawing tutorials and you open the video of like the drawing is almost done and then the pencil snaps in half and then it kind of cuts to the beginning of the video. Like, there's some interesting thing there that happens in the opening seconds that it gets you invested at that point.
And that's the whole point right there. It gets you invested, right? And you're setting up the expectation there in the sense that you're going to use your example, you're going to learn how to get to that point, but there's something more beyond that. And I'll understand what value there is for me going forward without you having to necessarily spell it all out for me.
Right.
I feel like YouTube has moved beyond that. Viewers are way savvier nowadays. So, all right. So we talked about ideas. We talked about title and thumbnail. We talked about not taking too long to get into it. We talked about setting up the expectation for the viewer. Definitely not like telling everybody to like and subscribe, especially before you've delivered any value. Right. I mean, any call to action, really. If I'm just on this viewer journey with you for 10 seconds, don't ask me to leave a comment. I don't even know what to leave a comment about.
I know. Yeah.
Move call to actions to the ends of the videos and be very intentional with those. What else? Is there anything else that you feel is a really big pet peeve for viewers?
Yeah, I think the next thing that comes to mind, I guess, is just retention in general. And maybe this might be a can of worms to open, but it almost leads me to the question that we get all the time of like, how long should my video be? What's the ideal video length? And so when it comes to retention, maybe a pet peeve that comes to mind is like, is the video longer than it really needs to be? I think it's really easy, and we probably see it more often that the video is longer than it needs to be than it's shorter than it needs to be, more often than not. So I think the retention engagement factor is probably the next thing that comes to mind as far as like, at what point are you, no longer really giving me a lot of value, and you're either just repeating the same points or just kind of like going a whole nother different direction. And it's, a 20-minute could actually be a 7-minute video and serve your audience a lot better. That's when they start skipping. So,
that's it's interesting that you went from 20 to 7. He's not wrong, by the way, at all. He's 100% correct. More often than not, when we talk to creators, you can literally cut the content by 50%. And it is a much better viewing experience for the audience. And that's, I think, really the key here is, again, it's not about you. Even though at 8 minutes you get to put a mid-roll ad in, if it doesn't hold their attention and they don't get to the call to action and it's a discoverable video, why'd you do it? You're missing out on that ultimate viewer signal of extending the watch session. So, overproducing it and stripping out all the value, stripping out all the you factor, the things that hold my attention, the human things, adding stuff in there just to add stuff in there because you feel like you're trying to hit a certain number. I guarantee you, videos that are 30 seconds long have millions of views on them. You know why? It was the right amount of time for that video.
Right. Right. And, maybe just to play devil's advocate a little bit here is, I imagine somebody might be like, well, what about somebody like Peter McKinnon? Like, he has long videos and it's great. And, he gets a lot of engagement, but now you're saying that you need to make shorter videos and not ramble too much. And I think what you just said, as far as not being too produced and like the you factor of it, is a really important thing. Something that you said towards the beginning of this podcast was the viewer, the viewing contract, like wanting to be a part of your world kind of a thing. When I think of myself, like somebody who watches Peter McKinnon a lot, it doesn't bother me. It's actually more endearing to me when I watch one of his videos and then he takes a 5-minute coffee break and he's showing me how he's doing his pour over and what coffee he's drinking. And it's the you factor that, he's kind of at a point where he can break the rules a little bit. And it's very much unique to him, and a lot of like that, the connection and the engagement comes in some of those places too. So, I would say it's not like we're sitting here saying like the shorter content is the better, like just make it as short as you possibly can. It's really like, I guess it comes back down to the audience. How are you serving your audience well? And how are you being unique to you and having some real connection points to connect with your audience well?
Yeah, that's a really great point and a wonderful analogy. And just so y'all know, Sam is a total coffee snob.
Maybe that's why I like watching those moments.
Now, Tim, if he were here and he couldn't join us for this podcast, he'll be back on the next one. Doesn't drink coffee at all. To him, it's burnt water. So he doesn't get Sam on this point at all.
Nope.
But the thing is, even if you're not a coffee lover, because I love espresso, but I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't make a Chemex like Peter McKinnon does, and you do, Sam.
Yeah.
But I love how passionate he is about that for him. So I'm in, and I watch his coffee B-roll because of that. He has shared the personal part of him and his love of coffee, like the creation story of where that even came in his content multiple times. But it is so uniquely him, right? That coffee B-roll has become a thing on YouTube. Yeah, because everybody wants to be like that because we love Peter McKinnon. Yeah. What's not to love, right?
Right.
So, but you did say something that I found very important, and that is that we want to be a part, the audience wants to be a part of your world as a creator. So even though it's not about us, it's about the audience. Ultimately, the audience does want to be a part of your world. And this is where this contract kind of between creator and viewer kind of comes in. It's important that that is balanced, and it's important to remember to optimize for humans and not robots, because ultimately that's how the algorithms are built to think as well. Don't try and hack the system. Just serve the best ideas, the best videos, the best titles and thumbnails that you can. Remember to think of the audience when you create. That's the key. And also to remember that the audience is just waiting for a reason to leave the video. Don't give them one. We always like to leave you here with a power tip here at the end, and today I have one around data. I know, it's a shocker. YouTube has given us some new analytics for posts. In the past, we've had data stories in our analytics for videos and channel performance, but now we're going to get even richer information about the posts and how they perform on your community tab. The new data stories, which come in the form of cards in YouTube Studio Analytics, they're going to be designed to break down complex topics about your channel's performance into bite-sized, easy info that's easy to understand. The thing that's really cool about this is when you're looking at posts that you put up on your community tab, this is going to help you to understand how those are actually reaching your audience as well as performing, which is great because did you know you can even gain subscribers on posts that you put on the community tab? It's a wonderful, wonderful tool that's open to all creators. The cool thing about this is now you're going to have even further insight to help you understand not just how to better use this tool, but help you make better data-driven decisions and get results. And that's what we're all about here. Thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you next week.